Hello, you've reached Gloria with Farmstead Talk, and I am here today with John from the Old Redding Farm, and he is representing his state of Connecticut in this homesteading interview. Welcome, John, and thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. It's a pleasure. Would you like to share with the audience where they can find you on social media?
Sure thing. You can go to Instagram. We're at OldReddingFarm, and you can also find us on YouTube, Old Redding Farm.
Okay, great. Would you like to share a little bit about yourself, where you're currently living, and a little bit about your family there on the homestead?
Sure. We're living in Redding, Connecticut, which is near Danbury, and it's my wife and I, and we have 50 chickens, 5 alpacas, and 2 Great Danes.
So tell me a little bit about what your property looks like.
So we are on a 1.8 acre lot. We actually live in the garage we actually live in the apartment above the garage, and we rent out the main house. We have a greenhouse that we're building in the back. We have about 1 acre that's fenced in for the alpacas. And then we have a bunch of little gardens. We have 2 separate chicken coops and runs. And we're actually working on getting the west side of our property turned into mostly garden.
Okay. What would you say is your inspiration for pursuing the homesteading lifestyle?
Well, so it all started with my wife. She started with just 12 chickens. And once I started working with them, I really found that I liked working with animals, and I liked working with my hands and getting my hands dirty. There was always a joke with my wife that I was kind of an indoor guy back when we first met. And that has changed since then. And I think it's really just once I got into it, the inspiration is just what you do on a daily basis. You know, I like going out and cleaning up alpaca poop every morning, feeding them and hanging out with all of our animals.
So let's talk about your garden real quick. First of all, what zone are you in?
We're in 6B.
Okay. And how big would you say is your growing space there?
We have several areas, probably 200, 300 square feet, maybe a little bit more. We have several raised beds as well as some direct in-ground places.
Okay. And what's your favorite thing to grow out there?
We did really well with these yellow pear cherry tomatoes last year. Those were super prolific and really good. We do pretty well with tomatoes. My favorite thing, though, is trees. We actually have about 100 fruit trees, and we got 1 peach last year. So hopefully we got some more.
Wow. Did you plant all those trees at the same time when you originally moved into that property?
We did not. What we have done in the past is when the big box stores have their sales at the end of the year and their trees are 50% off, we go and we buy all of them. So we've planted probably 50 or 60 trees each year for the past 2 years.
Wow. Someday that's going to be a great payoff.
Yeah, we hope so.
So tell me about the animals again. So I know you said that you have 2 Great Danes, you have chicken layers, and you have your alpacas.
Yep.
Tell me what the purpose is behind your animals.
So right now we're on a real small scale, and our farm is basically our hobby right now that we're hoping to grow into a lifestyle in the future. So our chickens right now basically just kind of offset their cost. You know, our dogs cost a lot of money and they don't really provide that much use in return, but our chickens, they lay eggs and we get $5 a dozen for them up here. We'll be shearing the alpacas in the spring, and there are several local sewing and weaving guilds that'll be interested in the fiber. And probably within the next year, we'll start to look into breeding them as well.
Okay. What would you say would be the goal for your homestead in the future?
I think the goal for it is to be as self-sustaining as possible. You know, the whole idea behind homesteading is be able to, you know, sustain yourself on your own property, know exactly where your food comes from. You know, it would be nice if we could be 100% or as close to that as possible in the future. Both my wife and I work full-time jobs right now, and we're doing our best to save as much money as we can, getting out of debt and not taking on any new debt. So I think going forward, it's really just trying to be as self-sustaining as possible.
Okay. So let's talk about that for a minute, about debt. We had shared a conversation about how you're trying to follow the Dave Ramsey model. You want to talk to the audience a little bit about that, who he is, and what model that you're following with him,
Sure.
with that?
So Dave Ramsey is a financial guy based in Tennessee who's a little crazy, a little kooky, but that's what we like about him, and he's real tear the Band-Aid off when it comes to debt. And the whole idea is to not have debt. And I think it's a plight of our generation where, everybody thinks you need to take out student loans, you need to have 6 credit cards, you need to have a car payment, all that kind of stuff. And really you don't, and it takes some self-discipline and some hard work to save the money and pay for everything with cash. But, my wife walks dogs, and every minute of her free time, I deliver pizzas on the weekends, all kinds of stuff like that. So it's really kind of in the same vein of Dave's big thing is the borrower is slave to the lender. Hey. So the whole goal is to not be beholden to anybody except for yourself. And if you're in debt, you're beholden to somebody else.
Okay, share a little bit about what you do for a living off the homestead and what your wife does.
So I am a graphic designer and production manager for a printing company. I'm able to work remotely most of the time, so I'm here on the farm. And my wife is a property manager for a few buildings around town. So again, we get to be home a lot. And she also, one of her other main sources of income is walking dogs.
And you also said to help with the offset, both of you have other rental properties too.
Yeah. Yep. We have one pretty close to us and another one that's a few towns over.
Very smart. Okay. And then the other thing you have is, let's talk a little bit about what's at the end of your driveway that helps you make a little income.
So we have a little farm stand. We're hoping this spring it's going to be much bigger than how it usually is. But it all started when we started off with chickens. We would just put a cooler at the end of the driveway, and we put up a plywood sign and painted it and said, honor system, $5 per dozen. And we have only gotten ripped off once in the 3 years that we've been doing it. So it's really nice. I think we are lucky to live in a town with people who really respect farming and are nice, because, a lot of people would, put that at the end of their driveway and end up down 5 dozen eggs with zero cash. But so again, the chickens, they offset their cost, and we're going to have a ton of vegetables and a ton of flower arrangements this year. We're going to build a little farm stand at the end of our driveway that hopefully brings in some more people.
And one of the things that you said that you're going to do different this year is to add the flower garden, which you'll be doing single stem and flower arrangements to sell at the farm stand as well.
That's the goal. Yep.
Very nice. Very nice. What about any other sustainable practices that you and your wife do at the homestead?
So we always compost. Anything that can be composted is. And we also, any veggie scraps go directly to our chickens, because we found that that's a real good way to also supplement their feed. And our main problem is with plastic. So we really try not to use anything in plastic. We switched to pine shavings that come in a paper bag. Instead of that big giant plastic bag. We don't buy any soil or compost in plastic bags. We always buy it in bulk. And we try to reuse things as much as we can. Like all of our seed starting things are in aluminum trays that we've been using for the past 3 years. And we also try to reuse as much material as we possibly can. Actually, when we put in the fence for our alpacas, a lot of the boards that we used were reclaimed fencing from somebody that I found that was giving it away on Facebook. We're actually in the process of building a greenhouse that's made up of mostly thrown away windows and stuff like that. So really, our main vice, or what we really want to try to avoid, is plastic.
Very good. So let's talk about building skills. You just said that you're wanting to build a greenhouse. You've made some other buildings and built some things, and you had told me before that you didn't know how to build, or how did you learn those skills?
So I watched a lot of YouTube videos. There's a plethora of videos out there on building and framing and all that kind of stuff. The other thing is to really just start on a small scale and just try it and see what works. I built a 10-foot by 20-foot barn for our alpacas, and I actually had to work with our building department to get a permit done for that. And the guys over there were actually really helpful. They gave me a lot of advice, told me what needed to be done. So that would be something, if you're in an area where they have a zoning department, building department, and you have to get a permit, definitely go and spend some time with those guys. They'll be able to give you a lot of invaluable advice. And like I said in some of the videos that we've done, if I didn't have to get a permit for the alpaca barn, excuse me, it would have been a much less safe structure. Like, it's much better and stronger now that I had to get a permit and talk to those guys than I would have done without it.
Let me just ask you, so if someone came to you with a lot less experience than you have now, someone that's younger, saying, hey, we've been watching your lifestyle, we want to do what you're doing, what kind of advice would you give to that person?
I would say to just try it, to start small. I would think that pretty much everybody has somewhere that they can put a pot and grow something. Maybe you don't have that much room to build things, but, start with little balsa wood kits and just figure out how stuff goes together. I've found that experience is the best teacher. The best thing that I've done is try. You try to build something and you see that it doesn't stick together, it falls apart. You figure out why. So I've found that hands-on experience is the best teacher for sure.
Okay, sounds good. So last thing, John, if you could sum up in one word what your homesteading experience has meant to you, what would that word be?
It would be dirt. And the reason for that is my wife used to always make fun of me and call me kind of an indoor guy. And now I am not. I am proud to get my hands dirty. And right now it's like 35 degrees out here. And I cannot wait to get my hands into the soil in spring.
Nice. John, thanks so much for meeting and interviewing today. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.